Yeah, it's better to do this with the Target one because it has less pepperoni. You don't want too much pepperoni on it. Costco one has pepperoni.
Flow Through 1 is now live. Streaming just chatting, a new type of a live stream today, totally different from the other horrible streams Flow Through live.
Hide the fact that it's a restream stream. You can hide the fact that it's a restream stream.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Late Night Gaming. Tonight we're going to be looking at it.
maybe you could become a pizza maker. You can buy a pizza oven. I love making pizza. I have to teach you.
Me and I used to make pizzas as a job.
I used to work at Pizza Hut. May used to work at the Jungle. We both made pizzas. Any vacuum or anything?
I'll wait till you're done.
Are you done with that?
About it.
Loyalty.
Yo, Ween! That new Ween video! That new Ween video! That new Ween video! Loyalty! Loyalty is royalty! Never forget that, everybody! Never forget that! Loyalty is royalty! Okay. Also, I can't get virtual camera to work with VC face for the life of me. I can't get it to work. Shit sucks. Wicked music. That's the name of the song. Wicked music. Wicked music. Dut, 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 dut. Think about the flow. Hold on, I'm just gonna go. Hold on, you already know that I'm so dope. Hold on, I'm just gonna show motherfuckers out. You already know. Hold up, you already know that is flow. Hold on, I'm just gonna go kick shit straight up off the dome. You already know, even if the beat is sort of slow, I'm just gonna see that motherfuckers are not even unique as I can flow through on the streets. Hold on, I'm gonna stop. I should just stop spitting to the beat like this. Hold on, whenever I'm unique, whenever I do my shit. Hold on, you already know my music is straight up lit. Wicked music, and flow through's gonna do this on the. Oh god, you cannot even become a hell spawn. Hold on, you already know. Loyalty is royalty. Loyalty is royalty. Mr. Beast 2 is live. I don't know if that's the real Mr. Beast. It might be a scam.
Jump in the shower. Like the dog pound. Oh, shit.
How the fuck do we still get a copyright strike after we played the song at low speed, low volume too? These record labels are out of control. These companies are fucking out of control. Oh, that's like clashing. The audio is clashing. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
which then grew into hope, which then turned into a quiet thought, which then turned into a quiet word.
Devin.
Oh yeah.
I'm doing.
Okay.
What's up, dude? What's up, dude?
There we go. There we go. We finally got the camera to work. Oh my god. Finally. Okay. Did we get this to work though? Streamlabs? Did we get Streamlabs to work? Or Elements? Let's see. No, it does not work. For some reason, Stream Elements doesn't work. Come on. Refresh browser when scene has become... Is that the link? $62. That says 62. Does it work? It doesn't work, guys. The alerts don't work for some reason. For some fucked up reason, it's not working.
Alerts.
That didn't work. Copy overlay URL. 62F. They're both 62F. Why is this? Oh, we have to control audio. I forgot we had to do that on all those ones. Copy overlay URL. Refresh cache of current page. Alright, now let's do it. Guys, it doesn't work. Stream Elements doesn't work. Also, this beat is called Sorrow. Hold on, I gotta get water. Let's watch more Mr. Deadman live streams while I eat some pineapple pizza. What? We got pineapple on frickin' pizza? Pineapple pizza? Hell yes, okay, the best type of pizza. Here's a day that couldn't get much better. Why is that song good? Why is that song stuck in my fucking head? Why is that song stuck in my goddamn head? It's addictive music. Guys, the alerts aren't working, so if you guys want to send alerts, it's not gonna work unless we restart the stream, which that would suck, doing, you know, restarting the stream. Look at the pineapple pizza I freaking made. It's amazing. With the side of Doritos on the side too. All right. The fuck? Fucking hell. Did that fix? There we go. Alright. God damn you, OBS.
And let me just tell you, it managed to exceed my expectations. It happened to be worse than Atlanta Square Pandas. I don't know how that's possible, but let's see how they did it. It starts with SpongeBob waking.
Alright, let's watch more Mr. Deadman live streams.
Another indie Xbox Live arcade game. We're gonna be looking at Shoot One Up.
Alright everyone, we're playing Shoot One Up. It's an Xbox Live indie game by Mommy's Best Games. Alright. Not gonna check.
Imagine you're the game developer studios and you call yourself Mommy's Best Games. It's all a bunch of mommies that run that studio. Oh my god.
Yeah, that is what it is. The story of this game, I don't really give a shit. But the actual game itself is quite enjoyable. Believe me when I say that. It's a shoot 'em up, shmup, so you could expect a few things. One, you play a spaceship and you're shooting shit. That's two things you can expect. Okay, let's play at normal mode. I beat it on chill just to see what the game is like. Let's go normal. Let me show you some things. Let's do, let's look at the options. How to play. So it's very simple. A to shoot, X brakes, which I don't ever really use. Contract, phalanx, expand phalanx. This is very important.
Brakes, wow, a useless game mechanic. That's amazing. A useless game mechanic? That's amazing. I chill out with game. I chill with game mechanics.
This is pretty much the major mechanic of the game. In this game, one of the instead of having lives or extra men, you have ships. Whenever you get a 1-up, you get another ship. You control all your ships at one time, simultaneously. So that might sound like a headache at first, and I thought it was going to be, but it actually is very simple. They make it very easy to do, though there are some situations where it requires you to, shrink down and use this design to your advantage. All right, so in most shoot 'em ups, you probably just shoot endlessly, right? I mean, I know I do, but in this game, it gives you an incentive to not do that by offering you a little shield if you stop shooting. If you stop spamming bullets, it'll give you a shield that will protect you from a projectile or two. Well, no, it doesn't do that. I guess it just makes you stronger. So, I learned something right there. I thought it did, but that's okay. I guess it just makes you a little stronger when you shoot next. Either way, it gives you an incentive. That's the point. And I lost 2 ships demonstrating that. Actually, yeah, I lost 2. Yeah, 1 up.
Wop, wop, wop.
Give me that one. Ah, get that. Yeah, there we go. Yay, we got 3 ships now. Let's fly forward. And in the background, yes, it repeats over and over again. It's kind of interesting. It's like this transformer battle. It's like Optimus Prime. Being an indie game, it probably is Optimus Prime. They're just not saying it is. So right now, I'm slightly expanded, which I have a death ray. I mean, that's what I would call that thing.
I want to watch the Mr. Enter. I want to watch some Mr. Enter. Some Mr. Enter.
Up on the... Wait, hold it. That's not how this movie starts. Are you really going to ignore the Patchy segments again? Well, these are animated atrocities, and Patchy isn't animated. Oh, there is some animated parts to the Patchy segments, and the entire thing is directed, shot, acted, and written as if it were animated for some reason. Plus, if you didn't include it, the whole thing only amounts to like 22 minutes. To really understand how bad this thing is, you need the Patchy stuff. Fair enough, I guess. If that's how you want to do this, let's start from the true beginning. The first image we see to celebrate SpongeBob's 10-year anniversary is a demonic puppet from hell. The creepy puppet is right, though. You do have to be ready to do this mess. This intro tells us where the budget went. Insert celebrity cameo number 1, CeeLo Green, singing this redone intro. But honestly, it's the best part of this. Well, Wikipedia calls it a movie. And once again, this is why we don't use Wikipedia to make our reviews. Hey, Wikipedia is a wealth of information and lies. Mostly lies. Anyway, after the theme, we get a clip show of Patchy segments narrated by Ricky Gervais. This goes on for way too long and adds literally nothing. Thank you for restating that vital piece of information. Yes, as we've already stated, this was SpongeBob's 10-year anniversary special, and they pretty much forgot that back before they even started production. So then we get to the Patchy segment proper. Although I can't actually call it a segment because really the focus of SpongeBob's big anniversary special is Patchy. You'll notice really fast that the people behind this show have no idea how to write, direct, or shoot something live action. But we'll get into more of that later. So before we even get to the SpongeBob stuff, which starts at 3 minutes in, Patchy shows up at the animation studio. He demands to see SpongeBob. The guard tells him to wait, and then immediately lets him in and hands him a drink cocktail.
Yes, this is Patchy the Pirate for SpongeBob SquarePants. I sent him over $400.
So, does he think that SpongeBob is actually real? If SpongeBob isn't real, then this is creepy because a grown man thinks that a cartoon character is real. If SpongeBob is real, then this is creepy because he sent him over 400 letters a week. I mean, take it to emulate your idol.
Where is your lunch?
Wait a minute. SpongeBob doesn't even have a license. Why would he have a boat? And since you've been the president of his fan club for a decade, you should know this. We haven't even begun, and there's already a plot hole.
Improv for you. A sure sign that they were making this garbage up as they went along.
So, the actual episode begins with the most pleasant sound in the world. 1,000,000 alarm clocks. This is apparently the 11th anniversary of the Krusty Krab. Keep in mind that Mr. Krabs opened the restaurant himself, and later, world. 1,000,000 alarm clocks. This is apparently the 11th anniversary of the Krusty Krab. Keep in mind that Mr. Krabs opened the restaurant himself, and later is stated that Plankton has been trying to steal the recipe for that long.
And we get a cutaway for some reason. Did you ever want to see SpongeBob as a penis? How about a pregnant Mrs. SquarePants? Well, here you go, all 2 people with that fetish. But seriously though, this is really weird and off-putting.
Especially since he tears out his umbilical cord to start eating the Krabby Patties directly. That can't be healthy.
I have heard doctors claim that you shouldn't eat Krabby Patties in your 3rd trimester. Maybe that's why SpongeBob turned out this way.
Ah, flashback! Anyway, we get our...
There's a new TMNT movie that I've never seen. Oh my god.
Actually, besides going on a bit too long,
I want to see it.
Nothing to do with the movie. It's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, too bad one of the most enjoyable things about this movie is stolen from the actual SpongeBob movie. Much like Best Day Ever, this song comes from the SpongeBob movie soundtrack, which means they put the least amount of effort to making the best part of this TV movie.
Speaking of the least least amount of effort, we're back to the Patchy stuff. Time, 7 minutes. Patchy is tempted by his delusions of his pet bird, probably caused by the drug-infused shrimp, to look at a Rolodex full of celebrities, most of which this special is too cheap to afford.
Oh no, don't worry, they can afford the celebrities, but only if they cut tons of corners on everything else in this special.
Now we get the most shameless celebrity cameos that I have ever seen. Patchy uses this Rolodex to call up a bunch of celebrities that the promos promised would be in this movie. Considering this movie was made for kids apparently, how many of these celebrities would kids actually know?
Even I hardly recognize most of these people. Do you?
I recognize the Jonas Brothers at the top of the Rolodex.
In fairness, this was the best thing they were ever associated with. Actually, that might be too mean of a joke for the Jonas Brothers. By the way, don't remind us of a better SpongeBob special in the middle of a really dull part of your TV movie.
Your mother must be so proud. Maybe you should consider wearing two eyes. That way you won't be able to see what's become of your life. What?
I'm not sure if he's talking to Patchy or Tom Kenny himself. Kinda pointless to shit on shit.
Sing, if you'll allow me to go off on a tangent about something seemingly minor, but is in fact a metaphor to how bad the Patchy stuff really is, the Rolodex footage is loose, meaning that they either did not get enough footage to cover it all, or they thought it was actually a good effect, which it's not. What makes this worse is the fact that this was a pickup shot, meaning they went back and filmed it later. You know how I know? That is not Tom Kenny's arm. You'd be able to see the white ruffle, and it looks a little bit too feminine to be his. Also, the stuff on the desk completely changes. They actually went back and shot this and still didn't plan enough to get the right amount of footage. What's worse is that this short clip is played multiple times.
Finally, back to the SpongeBob stuff. He tries to get to the Krusty Krab, but is stopped by a line. He circumvents this obstacle by hopping on everyone's head, instead of maybe walking around them, or using the back foot of the Krusty Krab. But that would be the reasonable option, now wouldn't it?
Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob and Squidward that Plankton is likely to strike on this busy day, and gives some exposition that there is a network of tunnels running under the Krusty Krab, for some reason.
Except for the rest of the special, they're all above the restaurant. Either way, they are to study that map. Then we get a montage of Squidward sleeping. No, seriously.
What? I have never fallen asleep on duty.
Why would he say that? He knows he's a bad employee, and hell, half the time he's even proud of it.
When I first saw the lead into this, I was hoping for a montage of Squidward slacking on the job for Mulder X. That would have been a clip show, but hey, if they added a ton of new content, it could have been a good clip show celebrating 10 years of SpongeBob. But no, this is literally a montage of new animation of Squidward sleeping. What a great use of animation. This is literally a montage.
I did not want to see Squidward's ass. Like, I'm sorry, hold on. Does this microphone work? Yep. I did not want to see Squidward's ass. Okay.
Montage of new animation.
I did not want to fucking see Squidward's ass. Look at that guy. That guy eating. That guy's like. I did not want to see Squidward's ass, okay? That's like some Rule 34. That's some Rule 34 shit. That's some Rule 34 shit, bro. Like Rule 34 for the sake of Rule 34 type shit.
What a great use of animation.
Watch out for Plankton. I've hired some extra security.
Oh shit, we're all screwed. After Pat no pay, you want him in your restaurant again?
Contract? What? You expect me to spend money on a real security guard?
No, but I expect you to spend some money on the actual special, instead of bringing Plankton into the special and cutting into another montage of failure. It might have been clever if it wasn't entirely made out of sports jokes. It's not like variety is an important rule of comedy or anything. After Plankton decides that this would be a good day to steal the Krabby Patty formula, like every other day, we got right back to the Rolodex. Mother...
That was such a nitpick on Mr. Enter's part. Mr. Enter, the thing I have to criticize with Mr. Enter in this video, that was like him bitching for the sake of bitching when you said that shit. It's like, bro. I know you talk hella fast, but it's like, that's still filler. What you're saying. Tries to make it sound all eloquent. That's where I agree. That's where I agree with a lot of people that criticize Enter. It's like,
Speaking of sports, we get a cameo by LeBron James, because this has so much to do with SpongeBob.
Wait a minute, I recognize him. He was on Gum.
But seriously, what does basketball have to do with SpongeBob?
What, you don't remember the episode where SpongeBob plays basketball?
Oh yeah, that was the episode after Squidward tried to commit suicide. I remember that now.
after Squidward tried to commit suicide.
Oh yeah, that was the episode after Squidward tried to commit suicide. I remember that now.
Aren't you the body SpongeBob or what?
Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob?
Get it? Because Tom Kenny plays Patchy. So SpongeBob isn't real then. Why the fuck did they let him in?
Alright, kids at home, dress up like pirates and go swarm Nick Studios. No, this will only work if the guard is poorly written.
The next cameo is Will Ferrell, being stalked by SpongeBob producers on his morning jog. Seriously.
You know, it's lazy to not have the cameos in the same room as our star, Patchy, but at least having them at their desk makes it look somewhat professional. Here, I'm pretty sure someone from SpongeBob ran into Will, took out their iPhone and possibly a gun, and bugged him until he said what they wanted him to.
I'm president of the SpongeBob fan club Tarzana chapter. I'm throwing a TV show too.
Can I watch that instead, please?
No, but at least we're back to SpongeBob. Oh, yeah, and there's never been a gag about Mr. Krabs changing the prices. It feels like we're watching a bad remake of a ton of different episodes mashed together.
Speaking of bad episodes mashed together, another clip show. Then we have SpongeBob decorating the entire Krusty Krab with toilet paper and condiments. He put more time and money into the decor than the writers put into the special. Then we get a joke about Mr. Krabs being cheap. And then there's a joke about Squidward getting beat up. Besides the pointless patchy prep, is there anything new here? Anything at all?
Nope, they make a clip.
Why is Patrick beating up Squidward?
Joke about Mr. Krabs being cheap. And then there's a joke about Squidward getting beat up. Besides the pointless patchy prep, is there anything new here? Anything at all?
Nope. They make a clip show without any clips, and it still feels like a rehash. Speaking of which, the characters get locked in a freezer. What a lazy and overused way to start your plot.
Speaking of that, did you know this episode was called Stuck in the Freezer in Spain and Latin America? Let me tell you that that is a much better title than Truth or Square. What's that supposed to mean? The special's either going to be truthful to the advertisement or give you SpongeBob?
I have a theory on that Spanish name. They most likely gave up on the episode at the point of the freezer and assumed nothing could get more dull. But no, this isn't even the main plot.
So they get through the air ducts. Remember that they have a map of this place? They bring this up just to ignore it. Why? How is it funny to watch people wander around ventilation, knowing that they have a map that they're too stupid to use?
Maybe it'll be an interesting character study where all the characters call each other out for bad behavior and learn something about each other. Not a chance.
Instead, we get a series of worse cutaway gags than Family Guy. Just like Atlanta Square Pandas, they're using alternate art styles to attempt to excuse their lack of effort. Anyway, this is a parody of a 50s cigarette commercials. Forget kids, I get the reference and I don't find it funny.
If they wanted to do a genuine throwback or parody, how about actually trying hand-drawn animation like they actually used to do back then? Pretty sure Adobe Flash didn't exist in the 50s.
So they crawl through some vents, reuse a joke.
It did if you had a time machine.
Spying on every person in Bikini Bottom.
Wait, what? Hang on a second.
What? You expect me to spend money on a real security guard?
Yeah, no money on extra security for the Krusty Krab, but he will install secret cameras in everyone's houses, including Sandy's bathroom, which costs a ton of money and nets him no obvious financial gain, his only motivation on the show, and put it all in a room that has no easy way to get in or out of? What? This is never even brought up again. Is he secretly selling pervy footage of the characters online? Where is the joke? What is the point? Ugh.
It's probably for Nickelodeon's latest reality show, Life in Bikini Bottom.
So Mr. Krabs is a bigwig at Nickelodeon, eh? That makes too much sense.
Children! I don't care about the children! I just care about their parents' money! The fact that their feeble minds are easily manipulated by cheap playgrounds and talentless clowns is no skin off my nose.
So Plankton enters the vents somehow, and then the group decides to split up. Mr. Krabs goes one way, alone, to presumably be lost forever. The others go the other way.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Krabs pops back with the group later. But now more patchy, and I am so sick of seeing this Rolodex. It is not a good transition, no matter how many times you use it.
This leads to nothing but more celebrity shit. They don't even use his real name because they know their target audience won't recognize him. MTV is less shameless about this stuff.
What is even the joke here? He went to pirate college? What, was this all made up on the spot that day based upon what celebrities actually agreed to do this nonsense?
So Patchy is trespassing on studio property, dressed like a pirate, thinks that a cartoon character is real, and is now laughing maniacally. This man is clearly unhealthy.
Oh, don't worry. The next thing he does is vaguely kidnap Robin Williams. But a worse crime than that is the terribly awkward improv that goes on between Patchy and Williams. Seriously, did the producers plan any of this? Or did they actually kidnap Robin Williams to do this?
I don't think this is acting on Robin Williams' part. It looks like he was just caught on the spot, and he's not even trying to be funny. If I didn't know any better, I'd think this was some kind of hidden camera prank.
I know this place. This is where careers come to die.
Do we even need to comment? The movie's making the jokes for us now.
When the actors have become self-aware that this is the worst thing in their career, there is no way this can get better. Also, how many shots of Robin and Patrick walking do we need to see? That's what really bugs me. So much of this garbage could have been edited down. But then we wouldn't have the marketable TV movie handle.
If they edited this down, it might have looked like a kidnapping. Oh wait, so we get the extravaganza, and we see the guest stars that Patchy actually managed not to kidnap, stalk, or harass. Anyone want to bet the writers of SpongeBob don't know who Abraham Lincoln really is? Oh, I'm sure it's great for her career to be alongside a puppet and a dead president.
She did the Kids' Choice Awards too. Maybe she owes Nick money.
Nobody cares without her.
Wow, look at how they tricked one of the few celebrities that they actually got. I can only imagine how insulting this is to her. Speaking of insulting...
What do you mean he's not coming? Now I throw him a television.
What do you mean he's not coming? God damn it, roll 34 for the sake of roll 34 again.
And he can't even be bothered to show up.
Well, maybe if you put some damn effort into this 10-year anniversary, he'd actually be bothered to show up. Anyway, we cut to all of the other guest stars. Apparently, this guy is supposed to be the 5th best ventriloquist in the world. Well, all but 4 must suck because he can't close his fucking mouth.
Did they even tell Pink she was going to be acting? Every word out of her mouth sounds bitter, like they lied to her and she just wants to get to the musical part.
Let's do some practicing.
Because all bands practice in well-shot music videos with already built-in special effects. Despite having nothing to do with anything, it's one of the better parts of the movie. Either way, Patchy goes looking for the actual SpongeBob. Then he gets eaten by a whale. Because, whale.
You know how Patchy just wants to see SpongeBob again? Me freaking too. This is his big celebration, and it's the episode that has the least to do with him or any of his friends. We don't even get potty for most of this. It's just terrible effects and Patchy.
We finally cut back to Plankton, as he crashes into SpongeBob and semi-friends. Now, after all this bullshit, we finally get to what the commercials were talking about, and why the special is criticized so heavily. You know, besides all the other reasons.
Just to recap, this far in the SpongeBob parts of this, it's been awkward, clumsy, and pointless. Not the worst SpongeBob material, but far from enjoyable. Here's where it gets even worse.
At barely any prompting, SpongeBob starts telling Plankton about when he learned about the secret patty formula.
You see the look on Squid's face as they go to flashback? That just about says it all.
This scene was done specifically to turn this into a ratings trap. I mean, most of the other ratings traps like To SquarePants or Not To SquarePants, Best Day Ever, or even SpongeBob You're Fired, were just episodes that Nick hyped the hell out of. This episode was built specifically so they could hype it. I know this because they do this multiple times, and each time it's in a flashback that has nothing to do with the plot.
My editing teacher always tells us that.
But the thing about SpongeBob, they always hype episodes, and they always disappoint. It's like, it's not like, it's like, bro. Whenever there's like a SpongeBob movie, that's when they hype it. But if there's like a special episode, that's when they try to hype it. It's just like, oh, yeah.
And each time it's in a flashback that has nothing to do with the plot.
My editing teacher always tells us that if it doesn't further your story, you should lose it. By that logic, 90% of this special would be gone.
So, Mr. Krabs comes alive with the flashback just to toss Plankton out of the story for a while. He materializes out of nowhere right behind them. Yeah, for some reason Mr. Krabs is with them now. Like he has the ability to teleport through flashbacks.
No clever transitions either. Just one shot he isn't there, they cut to Plankton, and then they cut back and he is. At least make a joke out of it. What was the point of even splitting them up? A crappy cliffhanger?
And another cut cutaway. Squidward remembers the time before SpongeBob came to Bikini Bottom. Guess the joke.
Squidward is sad because he needs some excitement in his life?
No, that only happens in clever episodes like Squidville. Here, he's totally happy, even though Patrick still lives next to him. He still has to work at the Krusty Krab with someone who isn't Jim. He still has to worry about Swilliam, still has to put up with the people of Bikini Bottom, and still sucks at clarinet.
Hooray for having a totally static character with no emotional range.
You know what we haven't had in a while? A totally pointless flashback. These are more pointless than the songs in Atlanta Square Pandas. At least those move the characters and sort of further the plot.
At least they use the same realtor model from Opposite Day. Actually, that brings up something else. Why are some of the side or one-off characters not in this thing? Mrs. Puff is a tiny cameo. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy aren't in it. William isn't in it. The Flying Dutchman isn't in it. Why not just have the side and even one-off characters be outside in the mall? How hard would that have even been? Just throw a little visual fan service. It doesn't require much effort.
And we get an actually funny joke when Mr. Krabs throws his wallet out of one of the vents.
Yeah, it's actually amusing to see someone steal from Mr. Krabs.
Great, then maybe we could actually get to the plot. Anyway, we learned that Patrick has borrowed, also known as stole, Sandy's walkie-talkie.
And as soon as he pulls it out, you know he's going to do something really dumb to foil his escape.
Sandy's trapped in that box!
You stupid one. You stupid, right?
Now we get another pointless flashback about SpongeBob getting married to Sandy. Now this is one of the most infamous lies in the commercial because people actually do ship this couple. But no, it happens to be nothing more than a play.
Even the way SpongeBob presents his flashback is a dirty lie. Why would he say it like that? Especially because Mr. Krabs and Patrick are in the flashback.
It's like he did that just to mess with Squidward. But go back to Patchy, who is sad that his special is a failure. I'm not sure, but I think that might be a metaphor for something.
Patchy decides to show us the outtakes and backstory of SpongeBob, rather than actually show us the interesting story of SpongeBob's real creation. We get some unfunny gags along with some bad acting, and a lame old-timey filter over it all.
Then they go replacing SpongeBob in the opening theme song with all of the other main characters. It wasn't funny the first time, it wasn't funny the second time, and the third one makes me revile in horror of what the Eugene Krabs show would be like.
I like it when Hans takes off Squid's pants. Don't take that the wrong way. But that one gag wasn't worth it for this stupid, repetitive setup.
I said that Demolition Pictures wasn't self-parody. This is what happens when they try to do self-parody. They bring up the cliches and do absolutely nothing with them, and then they make it go on way too long. The song is nice, but like the others, it has nothing to do with anything.
If you thought the walk cycle in the Lost episode was bad, all of these SpongeBob bits thrown into the Patchy junk are that times infinity.
Patchy gets launched into the air, back to the studio, and gets knocked out. He finally gets to meet SpongeBob. This leads to nothing. No comedy, no in-depth character study, just bad effects.
Patchy's entire story arc in this TV movie was about meeting SpongeBob. This is what it leads to? TV movie or not, dream or not. Technically speaking, this is the climax. What a load of barnacle.
It's just me, the guy on the pendants.
And apparently the writers still don't know who Abraham Lincoln is. Apparently not even Abraham Lincoln knows who Abraham Lincoln is.
Then, I don't even know, man. Oh, look, SpongeBob. I mean the segment, in fact. Everyone's about to give up, and Patrick writes his last words. I can't.
Then they decide the simplest solution is the easiest and bash their way out, making all this ventilation crap pointless. Also, I love how there are several freeze frames here. At least it's animated, so it's kind of hard to notice.
Well, at least they are respecting the vent's privacy while asserting their authority and breaking through anything.
They finally got out of the vents, and because the crowd was too tired of waiting for the plot to start, they've all gone home.
All of that fun that day.
Thank you for reaffirming this to the audience. Provided the writers didn't give up a long time ago, they finally kicked the bucket here. Out of bullshit to throw the audience, they decided to fill up the runtime with A Christmas Carol.
What? Why? When? Where? How? I don't even understand this. It's all over after this, right?
Nope, we gotta bring back Plankton, who had the entire restaurant to himself for the past hour or so.
Oh yeah, of all the plot threads, this needed some finality.
It's the only thing in this whole piece of shit that had any closure whatsoever. Instead of finishing off the other plots, we get Ricky Gervais recapping.
Oh yeah, I remember that was at the end of Truth or Square. Oh, Krusty Krab. Oh, Krusty Krab. Truth or Square was still horrible though. Let's be real. Guys, the new Saints Row game trailer has come out. I want to see the Sons of Somni. The Sons of Somni.
We already saw.
Right to their laziness here. We get stock pirate images, stock footage, and clips of themselves. Then just Ricky Gervais stumbling about, probably
to this crap twice as bad with half as much money. How long do we got anyway?
I'd say we're already halfway there. Halfway there. Halfway there. Halfway there.
Well, this one was a long time coming. Today's Family Guy review is going to be of a very special episode. I say that like it actually means anything anymore, because every Family Guy episode that I review is one of their very special episodes. Because ever since Not All Dogs Go to Heaven, they're almost all universally awful. It's almost like a show about sadistic people being assholes to each other shouldn't try to have these heartwarming moments and lessons, and instead spend their time and energy in actually trying to be funny. You know, I actually don't think that's a good enough explanation to why Family Guy's heartwarming episodes almost constantly bomb. Shows like Rick and Morty and South Park have successfully pulled off heartwarming and tear-jerking episodes, despite the fact that they're
Guys, what's Rumbleverse? That just came out.
Maybe the issue is the Family Guy specifically keeps bungling it up. They try to make an episode about how men can be sexually harassed, and they end up saying that it's okay for a woman to rape a man if she's lonely. They try to argue for atheism by saying that God doesn't exist because Meg is ugly and she has a shit life. They try to make Meg seem strong in See Our Seashell Party, but they say that she's only strong because she's a lightning rod for abuse, and that it's a good thing to stay in abusive relationships for your abuser's benefit. Then in the episode immediately after, in their special about domestic abuse, they say that you're not really a woman if you're a victim of domestic abuse. None of these moments were meant to be funny, or at the least, they weren't conveyed that they were supposed to be. There wasn't an ounce of sarcasm or a tell that any of this was a joke. They played up the heartwarming music with characters going through an actual arc, determined to teach them the lesson that they got. And each and every time they fucked it up in such horrific ways. So many people tell me that Family Guy is just a comedy, and I should leave it alone because it's just trying to make people laugh. That's all it's doing. Family Guy never hurt no one. But in almost every episode that I reviewed, it goes on and on about how it wants to be taken seriously. The only exceptions are what? Herbie the Love Sore and Fresh Air? And if you want to judge those as a comedy, well, no, they're fucking awful. And Herbie the Love Sore tried to have its heartwarming moments anyway. The reason that Family Guy can't do heartwarming moments is because all of its characters are horrible. I don't mean that they're all horribly written, although many of them are. I mean that they're all horrible people. For some reason, they keep writing the sex fiend Quagmire, who doesn't give a shit about what the other person thinks of the scenario, and is the epicenter of like every STD known to man. Yeah, they keep writing him as the hero and the person we should give a shit about. We should give a shit about Peter, even though he's a moron who's a danger to everyone around him. We should give a shit about Herbert the pervert and how heroic he can be, even though he wants to have sex with Chris, who is a teenager, a young teenager. Stewie is, or was, an evil genius with plans of world domination. Let me put it this way. If Jeff wasn't killed in his debut episode, in a second episode we'd be delving into a heartwarming story about the fact that no one seems to like him, and how he could possibly resolve this issue. And the answer would be, people just have to tolerate him a little bit more. If Frollo was on this show, we'd get a Valentine's special where we're supposed to care that he couldn't seem to find a date. One thing that Family Guy does not seem to understand on any level is character sympathy. They do seem to understand that without any negative traits, you've got to marry Sue, and they seem to know that those are almost universally despised. However, on the other side of things, there are certain acceptable negative traits that an audience will accept and sympathize with, and some that they won't. You cannot make Peter Griffin sympathetic. No matter how much he cries, no matter how much the world makes him suffer, no matter how much he acts like a toddler, because he is a danger and an asshole and an abuser, and the world would honestly be better without him. And every scene he's in constantly proves this. But he's nothing compared to the worst character on the show, Brian Griffin. I made it known that Brian Griffin is one of my personal most hated characters of all time, if not my most personal hated character of all time. And it's strange because he's not a villain. Hell, he's not even dangerous as Peter or even Quagmire. He's just an asshole, a pretentious asshole who doesn't have a clue about the world around him. He's arrogant, he's hypocritical, he's preachy. But I wouldn't call call him dangerous, at least not on a grand scale. Personally, yes, if Brian Griffin is in your life, it will be much, much worse. I guess it doesn't help that the episode starring him happened to be the worst of the show, and season 12 was definitely not a good season for this character. In the life of Brian, they killed him off in one of the most forced displays of sadness that I had ever seen. Then 2 episodes later, they brought him back, and the rest of the season would go on to show that that was the wrong choice in every feasible way. Not killing him off, but bringing him back. Soon after being brought back from the dead, he gave his best friend in the whole wide world herpes. For no reason, with no thoughts, with no reluctance. But that's okay because he's Brian Griffin. And it's okay because Brian Griffin learned that he had to spend more time with the person that he gave herpes. Because Brian Griffin is Brian Griffin and the world bends to his will and he can do no wrong. At least that was a far better display than his behavior in today's episode, Brian's a bad father. This is not a good episode. It is one of the worst written stories that I've ever seen on the show. The humor is almost non-existent in this comedy show, and it shows Brian Griffin at his absolute worst. You wanna see, kids? No. Too bad. We're doing this. The episode starts with Peter and friends hunting. Because Peter is a dumbass, he accidentally shoots Quagmire with a gun. Because he accidentally left his safety off.
Yeah, see Quagmire? Safety's on. Now this is a gun without a safety. Quite the difference, huh?
Damn it, Peter, you son of a bitch, you shot me!
No, wait, I'm thinking of Peter written properly in the earlier seasons. In this episode, he actually had a safety on, but when Quagmire showed even the tiniest bit of concern that a loaded gun was aimed right at his chest, Peter took the gun, took the safety off.
Oh, Peter is a fucking dumbass idiot asshole in this fucking episode.
Shot Quagmire in the arm to prove the safety was on. And Peter's subplot is about him trying to become friends again with Quagmire. And please tell me why I, as an audience member, should want Quagmire to become friends with Peter again. Because he's Peter, or because he's the main character, is not an acceptable answer. Assuming that your main characters are in the right, just because they're the main characters, seems to be the biggest sign of seasonal rot in any show. Peter's entire plotline is about how he's too much of a dumbass to have any friends. Going so far as to make you wonder why Joe and Quagmire ever wanted anything to do with him to begin with. But let's talk about the real episode. It starts pretty awfully, actually. You see, it starts with a plain view of an actual piece of shit. Sorry, I mean Brian Griffin. I confuse them a lot. He starts this episode pretending to be a writer. And let me tell you, having actually published something since the last time I reviewed a Family Guy episode, hearing all of Brian Griffin's dialogue just gives you an extra layer of being pissed off.
A writer who inherits a magic typewriter and writes for him. But then it turns out the typewriter is racist? Totally makes sense. Older technology, older worldview.
It's like someone pretending to know how to do your job when they have absolutely no clue whatsoever. It's constantly listening to that for me. He gets a call from his son Dylan. If you don't remember, in Dylan's first episode, Brian said that he'd always be there for him. And then he never mentioned Dylan again. And everyone... If you don't remember, in Dylan's first episode, Brian said that he'd always be there for him. And then he never mentioned Dylan again. And everyone lived happily ever after. Because everything about Brian Griffin is shit. And any involvement in Dylan's life would have made it worse. Then again, that episode ended with the Griffins getting rid of Dylan to stop Brian from acting like a jackass. Much to their surprise, after that episode, Brian acted more and more like a jackass in each subsequent episode. And now we're at the sequel that no one wanted or asked for. What you need to know is that in that episode, Brian actually ended on good terms with Dylan. Because back then, Brian Griffin was generally a good person. In this episode, he starts by wanting nothing to do with Dylan because Brian Griffin is generally a bad person.
Oh, crap. It's Dylan.
Dylan, your son? I haven't heard you mention him in ages.
Yeah, I decided to step away from the whole situation.
If you didn't hate this character before, well, you're in for a downward spiral, I tell you what. And if you've got your own family issues of any kind, I can imagine that this episode is legitimately hard to watch in its own right. Brian wants to ignore the call because he's an asshole, but Stewie answers it for him. Brian continues to try to ignore Dylan because he's an asshole, but Stewie won't let him.
Coming up, we'll meet a Filipino man who actually has a grown-up haircut.
Then maybe afterwards, Family Guy will be able to tell a joke that goes beyond, lol, stereotype. The stereotype, quote-unquote, racial humor doesn't offend me. I just find it incredibly lazy. It's like a little kid's first attempt to be edgy. They never do anything with these jokes. They just shove the stereotype and let it sit there like a wet fart. Brian says that there's nothing to be gained from trying to reconnect with his son because he is a sociopath. Like, I actually am not joking when I say that Brian Griffin is a sociopath. He has all the textbook symptoms. Let's run down the list. Number 1, a superficial charm and good quote-unquote intelligence. Sociopaths pride themselves in seeming smart, even if they're not really. Number 2, sociopaths are unreliable, like abandoning and never mentioning your son for years on end. Untruthfulness and insincerity, like not being sorry that you've abandoned and never mentioned your son for years on end. A lack of remorse or shame, like when you infect a baby with herpes and you don't seem to give a shit. Poor judgment and a failure to learn by experience. For example, Brian's writing skill only seems to degrade over time, and he never seems to get the idea that he's a piece of shit. In his love life, he never really learns to treat the other person as an actual person, no matter how many times it bites him in the ass. Speaking of which, an impersonal sex life. Failure to follow any life plan. Brian's a writer that don't write. Unresponsiveness in general interpersonal relations. And it just goes on and on. Like, I know that it's tacky to diagnose fictional characters with mental illnesses, but Brian Griffin does really have every single symptom in a textbook way. It would actually be pretty impressive if, you know, it was done intentionally. Dylan is apparently starring in a Disney sitcom that's come to Quahog, because Disney is known to film many other sitcoms in Rhode Island, and not in LA or Orlando, where they actually have studios and have the connections to put together a live-action television show. This immediately gets Brian interested in his son's life. Then Stewie follows up a joke with this.
Oh, that dog of mine. That's Mike Trunkbeater. Look it up on the internet. Family Guy. We've been on for years.
You're mocking me, aren't you? Because there's no way I can't take that as insulting. So immediately in their first meeting, Brian asks to be a writer on Dylan's show. You know what? Let's do something new. Let's talk about deleted scenes. You see, this is one of the benefits of buying a DVD. You get all kinds of bonus content. Commentaries, making-ofs. I find that they all give me fascinating insights of the creative process. The Family Guy DVDs are actually pretty packed with content. For one, all 3 of the discs in the set have a picture of Vinny on them, which is like one more than the episodes that he actually starred in. But beyond that, each episode has their own deleted scenes. Most of the deleted scenes are jokes that were determined not funny enough to put in the actual episode. One of them is Bonnie trying to pay for things with Joe's shit. However, I think they got a little too cut happy in this episode. In one of the deleted scenes, Brian and Dylan actually talk things out a bit at the diner. It's not much, but it takes some time for Brian to go straight to being a writer on Dylan's TV show. Brian actually says sorry at the start of it, and he puts himself in a place of vulnerability.
Look, Dad, when we reconnected after all those years, I thought things would be different. Then you disappeared all over again.
I know, and I'm sorry. It'll never happen again, I swear. Look, I want to make up for that lost time now if you'll give me one more chance. Dylan, will you let me be your father?
Yeah, I'd like that a lot.
Oh, terrific. Well, this day actually turned out all right.
After that, Brian and Dylan spend some time together, going shopping for barbecue, getting ice cream. There is constantly the air that Brian is doing this to get a writing position, but he also mentions in these scenes that it's been years since he last had a writing job, and the excuse he ends up using is that the showrunners aren't giving Dylan his best work, and making him look like a fool, which makes Dylan seem a lot less like an idiot.
But I wish we could hang out more. I gotta get to set.
Set? What set? Oh, right, the TV thing. Oh, God, I need for our father-son time to end, too. You know what? I could come with you.
That would be great. I'd love to have you there.
Well, all right, great. Let's do it. My afternoon's totally clear.
I can only assume that they remove these scenes to make Brian look more like an asshole, and more obviously so, which in the end makes the episode worse. It makes the story worse. It makes the characters worse. It completely destroys the heartwarming moments that they were going for in the end. And these scenes that they did decide to use to substitute, they're not funny enough to sacrifice all of this. I get that.
Remember Family Guy? The only joke I remember from Family Guy is tasty juice. Drink it then convert it to pee. Wasn't there a flip note of tasty juice? Tasty juice. Drink it then convert it to pee. That was a flip note. Tasty juice, drink it then convert it to pee. Oh, someone has a flip note archive. Flow Through loves flip notes because they both have FL in it, of course.
Title is Brian Brian's a bad father, but that's not a selling point.
What'd I swallow?
To prove this, but to what end? Brian's a bad father, so what? That's not a story.
We now return to Saving Private Ryan, brought to you without commercial interruption by Mazda.
This scene is totally pointless. I just wanted to point out that the announcer said that they were returning to a movie that didn't have any ad breaks. It's called editing. You should probably do it sometime. Then again, considering this movie that didn't have any ad breaks. It's called editing. You should probably do it sometime. Then again, considering this episode's deleted scene.
What do you? Why is Mr. Enter shitting on that joke? That was the funniest joke in that episode. Remember that? Who remembers that Family Guy episode? Who remembers the Brian's a bad father episode? Remember the joke in the episode, the Saving Private Ryan scene? Mazda, zoom, zoom. I think that's what he said. That was the funniest joke in the episode. Why is Mr. Enter shitting on that joke? That was the funniest fucking joke in the episode. How could you shit on that joke? Oh my god. I love Mr. Enter. I love his videos. I think a lot of his videos are entertaining to watch, but like this guy is, it's fun to disagree with this guy, and it's fun to like point out like this guy has like weird taste in jokes, and I don't know, it's weird. How the fuck is he shitting? Like, I don't get it. Why is he talking over that joke? Why is he talking over that joke? He's like, I'm like, bro, that joke is funny as fuck. Also, he's using a blue snowball microphone, okay? That's even more proof that clip mics are way better than snowball microphones. I gotta wash my hands real quick. Be right back.
Maybe you should stop editing altogether. 100 more of these funny moments is pretty much worth having an intact story. I also wanted to point out this. Brian's lines just give me another level of cringe altogether. Meanwhile, Joe picks Quagmire's friendship
At another level of cringe. Because there's so much levels to cringe.
Peter also ends up giving an infant a blowjob.
Yo, I love Susie more. Give me a Susie. Uncle Peter's gonna give you a raspberry.
Peter, that's not where you do a raspberry. There's a point when shocking becomes sad and desperate. Unfortunately, that happened back in season 9. This is just, what are you doing with your life? Is this something you're going to be proud of for years to come? Are you going to tell your kids you wrote this joke? Are you going to laugh about it a decade from now?
I wrote a Family Guy episode where Peter blows a baby girl. What have you written? What have you written? Written is not even a word. What have you written? That person responds with, "I've written a Drake and Josh fan fiction." That's me. And then the person that wrote the Family Guy episode was like, I think you have a way better life than me. You left a way better legacy
Episode
than I did.
actually so bad. It's almost like Brian Griffin wrote it. You know,
It's like Brian Griffin wrote this episode. Brian Griffin is a fictional character.
amazing if that was the case.
Hold on, other kids. Maybe they just recognize that nothing can protect us from the tedium of our mundane lives. Aren't we all on bikes without helmets? Sometimes I just want to put this gun in my mouth.
So this gets Brian fired.
Sometime I just want to put this gun in my mouth.
Aren't we all on bikes without helmets? Sometimes I just want to
So this gets Brian fired because
Sometimes I just want to put this gun.
Disney sitcom and not The Walking Dead. Brian goes to
Sometimes I just want to put this gun in my mouth, and I'm like, man, if only other Disney Channel shows were this honest, were this brutally honest, okay? Imagine in Shake It Up, Zendaya is all like, you know, sometimes I just want to put this 357 barrel down my, I want to put this loaded 357 barrel down my throat. That's gross.
So this gets Brian fired because he doesn't seem to realize that he's writing a Disney sitcom, not The Walking Dead. Brian goes to complain to Dylan.
Oh, hey, by the way, are we all getting those backpacks with the name of the show on them? You know what, Dad? I'm starting to think that you've just been using me to advance your career.
Oh, you don't know who Joe Pesci is because you're 14.
It's amazing. They know who they're appealing to. They know how to appeal to them, but they can't write people in the target audience for shit. Dylan is some next level stupid. There's teenage stupidity, but no. Dylan is...
Oh, I gotta crack my hands.
Maybe we got his...
I feel it's gonna crack. Ow.
Saw that he had some kind of care or an attraction for Brian. Like the deleted scenes led me to believe, then his actions would be more sensible. But no, Brian walks into his life as soon as Dylan has the show, immediately asks to be a writer, changes stuff haphazardly.
You should be. You know, art is scary. This is writing, man. The viewer wants to be raped.
Are you saying my 9-year-old daughter wants...
The viewer wants to be raped.
Now you're asking.
I remember that line from this episode. It's like, the viewer wants to be raped. I'm like, hold on, even thinking back to it, I'm like, bro, that's demented as fuck. Whatever writer thought about that, the viewer wants to be raped. It's like, if you're a writer, I think we all wrote and stuff. We all had to write stuff before, okay? We all had to write stuff before. Have you ever wrote something and then you're like in mind, you're like, man, I want the person that's reading this to feel like they're getting raped. A lot of people, you know what's crazy? Like when Family Guys talked about on YouTube, they just show a bunch of clips. They just show a bunch of like compilation footage of like the funniest jokes, haha. But they don't really talk about a lot of the problematic shit characters have fucking said, or like they totally gloss over that shit. Or shit that is just, or absurd shit, or just, you know what I mean.
The viewer wants to be raped.
I totally forgot Brian says that in this episode. The viewer wants to be raped. I'm like, if you're making something, like, if you're making something in mind, if you're, like, imagine, okay, I started live streaming, okay? I designed I designed this, everything, like you know, this whole setup. Like, did I design all of this just so somebody could look at this and feel like they're getting raped? Like, why would you design something for people to look at it, or for people to feel like they're getting raped when they're looking at it? What the fuck? Who says shit like that? I know he's trying to say something like, oh, the person needs to feel the story. It needs to be so dramatic. It's like, bro, no. The viewer needs to feel like they're getting raped. That's horrific. Just wording shit like that. Like, why would you word shit like that? Why would you word it like that? Why would a cartoon character say that?
You should be. You know, art is scary. This is writing, man. The viewer wants to be raped.
Are you saying my 9-year-old daughter wants to be raped?
Now you're asking the right questions. Now you're being creative, thinking outside the box. Take what you think you know and go a different way with it.
And only now Dylan is realizing that something might be amiss. Also, this is probably but I hate parenthood stories like this. You know, when the writer does something to the child or teenager and the situation is an actual fucking person. This child has a mental illness, so we can learn what a struggle it is to take care of a child with a mental illness. Never mind the struggles that the child themselves has to deal with. The child is incredibly stupid, so the parent can learn not to take advantage of them. The child is overly sweet, so the parent seems more like an asshole when they beat the shit out of them. Or make the custody battle seem like it has a higher stake. Or the child flat out dies to give the adult character motivation. Fuck, imagine degrading any other demographic to their stereotypes to give the main character who is not in that demographic similar motivation. Then again, I am reviewing Family Guy, and it sounds right up their alley. Like, if this was more frowned upon, which it probably should be, they'd be doing this on purpose. This kind of story doesn't work because it puts the focus on the character who has less hardships and goes through less turmoil, just because they have the good graces to be an adult and closer to the assumed target audience. Our target audience is adults, so we don't have to give a shit about how we write kids or teens.
Whoever wrote that line in this episode is fucked. Like, who would, like... They need to feel like they're getting raped. It's like, what? What?
It's just like our target audience is men, so we don't have to give a shit about how we write women. It's the same basic problem.
God, you're a terrible father.
Hey, dude, the line was, Brian, you're a bad father. It's the fucking title of the episode. I thought you were an actor. Immediately after this four-word speech, Brian realizes that he made a bit of a whoopsie-daisy. And I don't believe this, at all. It happens too quickly. If Brian could figure it out this quickly, it's something that he always knew and just didn't care about. And it's even worse because he starts feeling sad exactly when it's impossible for him to get his job as a writer again. Then we have an overly long gag where Brian steals all of the food. You know, a dad noises joke. Because everyone loves them so fucking much. I get what they're doing. They're trying to stop the episode from feeling too sad. But all this does is kill the mood. If you want us to feel for Brian at all, and considering the ending, they do, you can't have him act immediately like an asshole as he's feeling sorry for himself. I don't feel sorry for this character. He deserves all the shit that he's gotten.
Stewie, I just feel so awful about what happened with Dylan. I mean, every terrible thing he said about me is true.
He said one thing. Literally one thing. He said you're a terrible father, and that you might be using him to get a job on the show. That is it. You really don't edit your scripts, do you? That would be more believable if you weren't planning to use Dylan from the very beginning. In this half of the episode, it seems like Brian never thought of doing that at all, and it just kinda happened over time. It'd be more believable with the deleted scenes, but fuck, we don't need that. Brian keeps talking like he got the dressing down of a lifetime, but Dylan barely said anything. Honestly, it's actually confusing. I know that multiple writers usually work on the same episode, but it feels like they weren't even talking to each other in production. And if you collaborate, communication is everything. Either Brian is lying, like the sociopath that he is, he's talking about another event that we didn't see, or this is the ending of an alternate universe version of this episode and we got some kind of paradox shit going on. After Brian makes one failed attempt to enter the studio on his own, he enlists the help of Stewie in his act disguise. But Brian isn't the only one who is sad for being an asshole, even though he has no intention of stopping being an asshole.
Hey, Lois, if I was gonna kill myself, do I slit my wrists this way or this way?
Sideways for attention, long way for results. Meg is right.
Okay.
And why would they joke? And why would they joke about suicide? They joke about hold on. Sideways for attention is long ways for results.
Or this way.
Sideways for attention, long way for results. Meg is right.
Okay, I'll be in the garage.
Originally, I wanted to make...
Meg is right. I'll be in the garage. Why am I laughing at this fucking joke? Okay. Like, I swear I'm gonna get canceled by Twitter. And I'm live on Twitter, by the way. So I'm probably gonna get canceled on Twitter. But if you're like, why would you want to slit your wrists in the garage? Is it cause I'll be in the garage? Why would you slit your wrists in the garage? That's horrible. Why would anybody hang themselves in the garage? Why would you kill yourself in the garage? That's like the worst place to kill yourself in. You know what I mean? As someone that likes to chill in the garage, you know what I mean? You guys always see me in the garage. You guys see me in the garage, you know what I mean? You guys see me in the garage in my old live streams, like Why would you want to kill yourself in the garage? That's like the worst place to end your life. I look really good. I look really fucking good this live stream. Oh my god. I look amazing.
What the fuck expression, or a disgusted or angry expression, or go extremely over the top. But there's no expression that I can make that is sufficient enough to convey my current emotions. Can we play the clip again, please?
Oh, you don't know who Joe Pesci is because you're 14. Because you're 14. 14.
Yeah, these two clips back to back, from the same episode, by the way, make me wonder, what the fuck am I supposed to think? Did you not consider that this might have been the teensiest bit of a problem? That this could do some legitimate harm? Or barring that, did you not think that it would have looked obscenely bad on your part? We know our show is aimed at 14-year-old teenagers, a demographic especially prone to depression and cutting, so we're gonna tell them how to do it whichever way they want. I call this the worst joke that I've ever heard, but it isn't even in the league where I could consider it a joke. It's certainly not funny on any level. Are you really that desperate?
It's not funny. Well, hold on. Listen, it's not funny. Listen. That's where I disagree. I don't give a fuck if I get canceled. This is where I disagree with Mr. Enter. It's not funny. That's your opinion, okay? Now, we all go through shit, okay? We all laugh at stuff, whether it's like really self-deprecating. Maybe it's because I can handle a lot of jokes, but it's like, to say it wasn't funny, it was funny to some people, you know what I mean? I thought it was funny, okay? Because, like, you know what I mean? Maybe it's just because maybe I'm new, maybe I haven't heard it all, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a state of mind I'm in, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It's like, you know, sometimes jokes can get me, okay? Sometimes it can fucking get me. Doesn't matter how fucked up it is.
Brits, the shock that you'll tell impressionable young people how to hurt themselves. After this review, I am probably going to burn this DVD set. Sure, all but one Family Guy Season 12 episode is the worst kind of awful, and I can get plenty of review material out of any of them. Christmas Guy especially. But I do not want to have this DVD set in my possession. And I have the 2010 Cinematronic Alice in Wonderland DVD in my possession. And I'm pretty sure that that's possessed by a demon. At least whoever made that had the good sense to, you know, think about what effect they might be having in the world. Family Guy, people do listen to you. Stop pretending that they don't. If you didn't think they would be listening to you, you wouldn't make episodes like Screams of Silence. Sure, it's on the individual person to listen, but it's on you to be responsible. And this is one of the most callous things I've ever seen in almost any piece of media. It is that bad. Let's just finish this up. I want to be done with this fucking episode. Zach comes in and gives a heartwarming speech to Dylan that I am going to tear to shreds.
But how do I know he won't just hurt me again? You don't. You never know that. But isn't taking a risk better than not having a dad?
Considering the candidate in this particular instance, I'm gonna have to say, no. I'm gonna say no. And yes, that is my final answer. Brian doesn't deserve Dylan, the blank slate that he is, because Brian has done nothing to prove that he deserves Dylan.
I gotta refill my water. That looks so good right now.
Dylan's life would be better. Hell, give me one reason Dylan's life would be worse if Brian was involved in it. Dylan is Brian's son, sure, but what does that really mean? It meant that Brian had a one-night stand with somebody he didn't give a shit about and took advantage of, and abandoned all responsibility. Like, this speech here, it would work, it makes sense if Dylan was the victim of parental alienation, or a harsh custody battle, or an accident, or lying, or hell, if Brian didn't intentionally use Dylan selfishly for his own ends and nothing else, without consideration of Dylan at all. Just because Brian is biologically related to Dylan doesn't mean jack shit in the end. It doesn't mean that Brian is any more prone to changing for Dylan. But because this is a story about parenthood, a child or teenager's ending means fuck all, as long as the dipshit adult gets his happy ending. I mean, Dylan being at the mercy of being tugged emotionally by Brian for the rest of his life sounds like a perfect story of family fuzzies. For family to mean something in the story, it needs to matter to Brian before he screws things up. Brian more hell for me to care, for me to not be insulted by this. The only value
I look really good right now.
prescribed to being in a relationship with Dylan was getting himself a writing gig, or feeling sorry for himself and thinking that he was a terrible person. It had nothing to do with Dylan at any point.
Dummy!
By Quagmire.
Dummy!
Means nothing, Peter. The only thing that means anything to me is a bullet in your arm.
Stop putting the words of the audience in the mouths of sex offenders. It is insulting as
It means anything to me is a bullet in your arm.
at any point. Or better summed up by Quagmire.
Your offer means nothing, Peter. The only thing that means anything to me is a bullet in your arm.
Stop putting the words of the audience in the mouths of sex offenders. It is insulting as all hell. In the episode where Quagmire realizes that a character won't change, no matter how much they talk and say sorry and feel self-pity, it's assumed that another character will change immediately after only the barest whiff of self-pity. A bottle of alcohol in someone's hand does not mean they feel an extra amount of self-pity. Brian's an alcoholic. He'd be drinking whether or not Dylan...
Whoa, doobie!
And speaking of self-pity, we get our heartwarming ending.
I went to your house and Chris told me you'd be here. Look, Dylan, I'm really sorry I hurt you.
Yeah, Brian's an alcoholic and a binge eater and a shitty person. Brian Griffin is like one of the...
It kills the movie.
Brian Griffin could have been like a character like you can have sympathy for, but like Brian is like the worst character in a lot of episodes of Family Guy. Like he's like a really shitty fucking character. Like
Before it even begins. I get that Brian is the biggest poser on the planet with his monstrous delusions of grandeur. But for the episode to have the effect that it wants, they need to use the emotional torque properly. And being a pretentious ass...
I think the thing about Brian Griffin is that we all like I can relate with Brian Griffin as a character. I think if anyone can relate with him as a character, or you see a little bit of traits of him inside of you, then like, you know, like I think Brian Griffin, you know what I mean? It's like he could have been a good character. Like I think there are episodes where he is a good character, where they do him right, you know what I mean? They do Brian right. Okay? Like I think like the episodes where Brian is sorry, I had to look at something. I think the episodes where it's mostly Brian, those are like episodes that are disasters.
Kinda turns the audience sympathies off. Brian asks for a chance to redeem himself at the end of the episode, and then he wants to be Dylan's father again. And then Dylan is never mentioned again. Ever. You know the reason that sparked this whole episode? I guess this is a meta lesson. Don't give people second chances because they don't fucking change. This episode is filled with good life lessons, isn't it? I'm not going to say don't give people or families second chances. I'm not going to say that in real life people don't change. What I am going to say is that you have to treat it on a case-by-case basis. Personally, I don't expect people to change. Some people do, but that's on them. They've got to want it. And for that, you need to be valuable enough to them for them to want to change. And if they don't value you in that way, they won't change for you. But that being said, most people don't seem to want to change. Brian Griffin does not want to change. He just wants back what he's lost. And learning that skill, separating those from who want to change from those who just want back what they lost, is an incredibly valuable and it's an incredibly important skill to leading a very happy life and not being abused and tugged around. There are a lot of Brian Griffins in the world. And remember, your story with them doesn't end at a hug in the sunset. It's the next day when they're trying to become a writer on your show again. It's the next week where they force you to defend their actions and get both of you fired. It's the next month when they start saying they want nothing to do with you again after they made your life worse. When they begun ignoring all contact with you because you can do nothing more for them. All I could say is
Fuck everything about this episode. Fuck Peter for being a dumbass. Fuck this episode for trying to make me sympathize with it. Fuck it trying to tell people, I'm sorry, specifically 14-year-olds, how to cut themselves. And fuck the editing, too. Yeah, remember? This episode has deleted scenes. They actively chose to cut out plot and character crucial moments and keep in the scene with Peter and the knife. Fuck this episode for trying to make me sympathize with one of Brian's more self-centered and sociopathic appearances. Fuck the dishonest character moments. And keep in mind that this is literally the third episode that happened after Brian was brought back from the dead. Way to teach us all to be, what was it? Grateful for what we have and be knowledgeable that we lose it at any time. That was the message of Brian's death and revival, right? Be grateful that your herpes-spreading, kid-abandoning asshole is still around to drink all your liquor and spout pretentious non-sequiturs while never having a real job. Fuck this episode and fuck Brian Griffin. Next time you get hit by a car, do us all a favor and stay dead.
Hey, Brian?
Yo. Damn it! This glass in my eye! Son of a bitch!
Mom says dinner's at 6. She wanted me to tell people, I don't know why.
Well, this one was all...
Some views may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I'm just gonna come out and say it. This is the worst episode of the entire show. Family Guy's worst episode. It's worse than Seahorse Seashell Party. It's worse than Fresh Air. It's even worse than Life of Brian. Speaking of that episode, I thought that it was just another ratings trap. But between this particular episode and another episode that I'm eventually going to review, Brian's a Bad Father, I can see that this is something a little bit more insidious. It's called Leverage, and it is one of the most underhanded, diabolical writing techniques that I've ever seen. Phase 1 is to kill off a character and let the audience know that you can and will do it, because he's nothing more than a pawn in their sick little game. It also lets them see how much love and care there is for that character. Phase 2 is to bring them back because you're not competent enough to handle change, and you're afraid of bringing your show to new heights. And people will love you for this because you brought back their favorite character. Phase 3 is to rip the character from his original personality and let him do whatever the hell you want him to do. Here's what I mean. You can't get upset at Brian for taking blatant advantage of his kid because he could be gone at a moment's notice. You can't get mad at Brian for screwing Quagmire over in Realty. We're willing to let Brian get murdered by Quagmire. You can't get mad at Brian for giving a baby an STD, or we'll just kill him off again. I know that sounds like a stretch, but if the Life of Brian fiasco taught me anything, it's that yes, Family Guy is willing to do any dirty, underhanded tactic to gain controversy, to gain views. The fans don't care. Fox doesn't give a shit. The FCC can't do shit. They can do whatever the fuck they want, and they'll never get canceled. But I'm still reluctant to review a lot of these Family Guy episodes, even if I don't have to worry about copyright shit. I mean, bad Family Guy is beyond piss poor writing. I mean, SpongeBob, the bad episodes are what? A character being tormented for no reason? Stupid writing? Yeah, a lot of bad Family Guy episodes are bad on those merits. I mean, Life of Brian and Seahorse Seashell Party were easy. I personally went through those kind of things. But episodes like Not All Dogs Go to Heaven, Screams in Silence, and Quagmire's Dad, they're pretty much the equivalent of a guy thinking that he knows everything on harsh real-world topics because he spent 2 minutes on Wikipedia after a troll edited the page. When you write stories that deal with these issues, you can't afford to get any details wrong. I don't care if it's comedy. If you're in a world of zany wackiness, then as the saying goes, why so serious? Do you guys really think that they're spouting off any of these bullshit morals to be funny? No, they're not. They're trying to be serious. Not that Family Guy seems to have the ability to be funny anymore either, but whatever. That brings us to today's episode. Herpy the Love Soarer. Just the title lets you know that it's going to be a fun-filled romp with 22 minutes of stellar comedy. Before we begin, the episode isn't Renseek's Hell Bad by any means, but I'm going to warn you that this episode is particularly disgusting on pretty much every level. It's disgusting because they actually show herpes, even a live-action photograph of it. It's disgusting that the characters do these kind of things to each other. But most of all, it's disgusting that someone thought the scenario would be funny. Hey, it's the Splinter, all grown up. This episode starts with the family watching a television so they can immediately show a cutaway gag because Family Guy is not able to tell a story that goes on for 22 minutes. They have to fill at least half a cutaway gag because Family Guy is not able to tell a story that goes on for 22 minutes. They have to fill at least half of it with cutaways and dad noises. It's actually gotten to the point where it actually surprised me when I saw a new Family Guy episode that did not start with a cutaway gag to a television show just to burn time. Try it. Go through a bunch of episodes, watch the first 2 minutes, and see how many of them start with the family watching television just so they can immediately go to a stupid gag. Sorry about that. The cutaway gags are just really starting to piss me off. Especially Quagmire's mom, which, no joke, has a cutaway gag that has a still image, just a still image, for like 30 seconds. Anyway, when the episode actually decides to start, Peter gets some of Quagmire's mail. He decides whether or not to open it, and what I'm gonna call excuses for jokes. You know those moments when there are repetitive shit happening and it goes on forever with nothing actually
actually happening? What I see here is the writers directly telling me that they should have put a joke in there, but they were too lazy to do so. That is literally all I can see in these instances. Sorry, we should have put a joke here. Maybe next time. It's like the writer put in a placeholder, hoping the next guy would fill it in, but there is no next guy, so it just goes to air. We have a beating up Meg joke, and then a punching Stewie for using a gag that's long since worn his welcome. Can I have more of the latter, please? Unfortunately, instead of that, we get more obvious jokes. You know, hearing a fragment of REO Speedwagon in the Splendid Source worked because we weren't expecting it. Here, what other song do you think they're gonna cut to, besides Whippet? Also, racism. Since this racism is forced, I mean, Peter had to drive to fucking Virginia to force in this joke, I'll just talk about something else. Why does Peter go in Virginia if his show is canceled? It tells me that they gave him his show just to get him on Family Guy, which is just not right. Do it to Brian, please. Oh, and as an added bonus of the TV gag earlier, by him watching an unfunny cutaway gag on TV. Notice Brian's expression. It is very important. This is the only way to use any modern Family Guy episode. An uninterested expression while holding a glass of alcohol. Now, out of sheer coincidence, and this is important that it's out of sheer coincidence, Stewie comes in and we see that the two main characters of that cutaway gag are becoming blood brothers. Stewie wants to be blood brothers with Brian, and Brian doesn't hesitate at all. Feel the bond, Brian. I feel like we're closer now. You know, more connected, more intertwined. Oh, wait to see what the show has in store for you two. So yeah, that's gonna be a thing. I don't like to judge things before they come out, but I'm pretty sure I'll have to talk about that one in the future. We cut back to Peter's plot for no reason, and that's when this one starts turning bad. They decide to forget about the whip completely, and the group finds that their favorite seats at the bar are all taken. They talk to these guys, and then they try to fight. Stupidly. Also, I want to show you how rude and generally unpleasant these gentlemen are, because if you thought that the plot where Brian gives Stewie herpes was the only bad plot of this episode, you'd be wrong. We get two bad plots for the price of one. Although, with the herpes one, you could probably cash it in for like 10 or 20. Speaking of which, Stewie wakes up with herpes. Crazy. There's no way I gave you herpes. Really, Brian? There must be a way, because you already gave herpes to Chris. We'll get to that, but Brian is lying through his teeth. Not only that, he wanted to become blood brothers on a whim, and he knew that he could affect Stewie. Doing this would give Brian no personal gain. He has no motivation whatsoever. I can only assume that he wanted to do this specifically to hurt Stewie. What do we call creatures that are willing to hurt other creatures for no personal gain? Oh, that's right, evil! This is beyond being a hedonist. It's beyond being an asshole. He gave an infant a ruthless disease that would last the entirety of his life for the benefit of cutting his own hand. What did Brian gain out of this? On any level, the most tangential thing, please tell me. Does Brian like to see other people with herpes? Or does Brian just want everyone in the world to have herpes, to make him feel less self-conscious for having herpes? Yeah, speaking of that, Brian has got a lot of herpes. I'm so glad that Family Guy's animation is crap. If it wasn't, people wouldn't be surprised when I said it takes 6 months to animate this shit. You spent 6 months showing people herpes.
Bastard! You knew you had herpes and you still agreed to swap blood with me!
Yeah, about that. Can I get a reason? I need a fucking reason. When people do this shit in the real world, they generally don't do this to infect other people, nor do they do it for their own health. They do it to get sex out of someone they don't give a shit about. But we can't have Brian fucking Stewie because I don't know. I mean, they're willing to do anything else. The vibe I get from this scene is that Brian doesn't give a crap about Stewie. Right after an episode that went on do this shit in the real world, they generally don't do this to infect other people, nor do they do it for their own health. They do it to get sex out of someone they don't give a shit about. But we can't have Brian fucking Stewie because I don't know. I mean, they're willing to do anything else. The vibe I get from this scene is that Brian doesn't give a crap about Stewie. Right after an episode that went on and on about all the good times they had together. Crap, man, this kid is the reason you're alive.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Not that big a deal! It's a disgusting, unsightly, unsavory disease and it lasts for life!
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, isn't the worst thing about herpes just the stigma?
How about the worst thing being that you fucked up someone's life? You think that that might be one of those little things? Normally, giving a baby herpes, this is the kind of shit that's reserved for your cutaways for a reason. Number one, they don't make sense logically. Number two, they don't need to be set up. And number three, they can be forgotten about right after. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Family Guy has sunken so low that they are now making plots out of cutaway gags.
Like, what if it wasn't called herpes? Like what if it was called Bubble? Huh? Oh, I got a little bubble. Oh, that's cute. Ah, I want bubble. You know, my uncle was in the army and he got genital bubble from a Saigon horse.
Yeah, that totally fixed your fuck up. He's not trying to cheer up Stewie, by the way. He's trying to cover his own herpes-encrusted ass.
Be ashamed of yourself.
He isn't, he never was, and he never will be. Also, cutaway gag where everyone has herpes because, okay, I think the writers are under the impression that having an STD is funny. Like, how do you even come up with this plot? No, seriously, get better ideas out of random word generators. I mean, STDs, they're not funny. I don't think I need to mention that, but apparently I do. All they really are...
It's a disgusting, unsightly, unsavory disease, and it lasts for life!
Oh my god, I just realized it. I've cracked the code. After pissing people off for half a decade, Family Guy decided to start begging for death, making episodes like Fresh Air, Herbie the Love Story, and God knows what else they're gonna make. Unfortunately, Family Guy is trapped in a torrential purgatory, where no matter how hard they beg for death, death won't come. And the more they beg for death, the more people turn against it, the more they hate it, and the more Family Guy desires for death. I'd say it's time to grant Family Guy some mercy, but I guess it's not my call, now is it? Anyway, back to Peter's plot, which is more structured but not funny in any kind of way.
Here are the spider veins of alcoholics wearing shorts.
Ah, yes, because that was comedy gold and used in Fresh Air a couple of episodes ago. Your viewers aren't stupid. They do not have the memory of a goldfish. They're smarter than that. They remember what you did, and they didn't laugh the first time. As you can tell, the guys are bummed that those other guys stole their seats. And then they do what they always do when they're down in the dumps, or sad, or happy, or fucking breathing. Yeah, you know why Family Guy can't do serious stories? It's because the cutaways keep breaking up the pace. The formula of the show actively prevents the show from tackling any subject in a serious way, even less major topics. They cannot do anything seriously because when you start getting invested in the drama, boom, we gotta show you something stupid that has nothing to do with anything! As bad as the episode Brian and Stewie was, the writers were smart enough to drop the fucking cutaway jokes. At daycare, Stewie's preschool teacher notices that he has herpes. It goes to a cutaway, and then we're back to the other plot. Glenn Quagmire is seen as a coward by his peers.
Do what he tells me to do.
I was in the military for 30 years back when that meant something. I don't deal with gay people.
I don't get you at all. Joe is called the coward by his wife, and Peter is seen as a coward by his family. Okay, did I miss a scene or something? Oh yeah, it was the scene where someone went around telling everyone that Peter and his friends were cowards. They had to pick between this plot-relevant scene and one of the cutaways, and honestly, it came down to the wire. But they thought that the cutaway gag was much more important than having a scene that could actually connect the plot together. I'm joking, of course. They didn't even consider the plot-crucial scene.
Everybody heard about what happened over at the Clam and how those guys made you their bitch.
Not good enough. If that's the case, everyone should know that Brian has herpes by now.
We now return to Brian Cranston sneezes. Thank you. To Brian Cranston sneezes.
They're bitter because they're not good enough to win awards. Finally, we hear that Chris has herpes. I think this bears repeating. Look at how badly written this is. The only reason that Stewie wanted to become blood brothers is because he saw it on a movie that was randomly playing at just the right time for him to walk into the room. Why did Chris want to do it? I can only assume that Brian plays the movie waiting for people to come by to become blood brothers specifically to give people herpes. Beyond the stupid logic that's playing on, Brian knew that he gave herpes to someone, and then he gave it to another person in the exact same way. I mean, if he was doing this to get laid, he'd still be a piece of shit, but at least there would be a fucking reason. You can't just pull a concept out of your ass and have it happen. Unless you're a dying Fox show, I guess. Back to the Peter plot. Everyone calls him a coward, so now he's a coward, because that's totally how it works. Lois convinces him to go down there and take the booth back. They all get together and have another pointless cutaway. And then we transition to Brian trying to spread more herpes around because he's a piece of canine shit. Is this out of character? No. After he magically came back to life, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, this new Brian, this revived Brian, he's a selfish prick and only ever thinks about himself. That's who Brian Griffin is, and now that's who he'll always be. Stewie and Chris come in and rightfully out Brian as having herpes.
Damn it, you guys, her dad's really rich.
If I had any respect for you guys, what the hell is the point of this episode? Making Brian look as terrible as possible? Why? Making a character of the main cast being an antagonist always has the risk of turning bad. because this is important. No matter what, we still need to be able to like this character after the episode is over. This is true no matter what kind of show you're telling, unless they are the permanent antagonist, and Brian is not the permanent antagonist. If he was, you couldn't have him spout these bullshit ideologies. But at this point, Brian could save the fucking planet and I'd still hate him. Peter and his friends try to get their booth back. Oh my god. Did you see that? Guys, take a photograph. Get the reporters down here now. They actually transitioned to another scene without a cutaway gag. I can't tell if this was just an oversight, if they just forgot to put a cutaway in there, but at that one particular moment, they weren't actively trying to murder the art of storytelling. Quagmire comes in. Oh yeah, he decided that he wasn't going to fight them. I didn't mention that because it had little impact on the plot. I'd say that this fight scene is well choreographed if it wasn't for the people just blankly staring at it. Did the whole bar have a collective stroke? They might have been able to put more detail into this if they weren't focusing on putting all of their detail into the herpes. Peter starts to open a can of spinach. Hey, it's just like the dad noises and virtually every other joke Family Guy has been telling lately. You know, this scene in each and every Family Guy episode where they do this open a can of spinach. Hey, it's just like the dad noises and virtually every other joke Family Guy has been telling lately. You know, this scene in each and every Family Guy episode where they do this mundane task in every minute detail. Once again, here's what I hear from the writers. We feel that we should have put a bunch of jokes here, but we were too lazy to think of one. It always just wastes a minute of screen time. I swear, if you took away all the cutaways and all the excuses for jokes, these episodes wouldn't even clock in at 11 minutes.
Why are we even bothering with these idiots? We're shipping out to Afghanistan tomorrow. You guys are soldiers? It's our third tour of duty.
And here it comes. Remember when I said that Family Guy likes to fuck up the most serious of topics? These guys, who have been assholes throughout the whole episode, get appraised low by everyone. They get a holiday declared for them by the mayor. And Peter and his friends are berated for fighting them all because they're soldiers. Just because they're soldiers. That is literally the only reason they get all this stuff. Why am I willing to tackle this and not something else? Well, for once, Family Guy has tackled an issue so poorly, so tactless, so disrespectful, that almost anything I say about it won't be misconstrued. Let's start out with the obvious. It's not funny. Not in the slightest. Nothing about this episode is funny. Nothing about any of the Family Guy episodes that I've reviewed are funny. That's always tossed my way whenever I try to cut through the bullshit here, but it's not funny. And satire is supposed to be funny. This was supposed to be satirical. I mean, that's what Family Guy is supposed to do, right? I mean, every time they tackle a serious issue and screw it up, it's satire, right? Just wait until I get to screams of silence. No, really, they've handed me the guillotine to this excuse on a silver platter with that particular episode. If Fresh Hair is meant to be funny, Screams of Silence is meant to be funny. If Seashell Party is meant to be funny, Screams of Silence is meant to be funny. If this is meant to be funny, Screams of Silence is meant to be funny. But let's talk about the satire here. It's some of the most misdirected I've ever seen. What they're trying to satirize, I think, is the soldiers who do horrendous things and get away with it. Do you think that anyone condones their actions? On the base, at home, whatever. When people hear of soldiers going psycho, they're condemned beyond all belief. Even the biggest supporters of the military condemn them beyond all belief. If anything, because assholes like this make the military look bad. People who try to be assholes and use being in the military to get away with being assholes are still assholes. People will think that they're assholes. That doesn't change because they're in the military. It doesn't. You see, satire is hard because you need to completely and correctly understand an issue before you make fun of it. Family Guy doesn't. It's really tough to be funny with subjects like this. I'll admit it. But that's why you have to try your damnedest. When people celebrate the military, they're not celebrating assholes. And they're definitely not celebrating soldiers for the pure fact that they're soldiers. They're celebrating them because they risk their lives to protect our freedoms. Not because they're getting involved in bar fights. And no, at home, people don't look the other way when they do shit like this. I know I'm going on a bit here, but that's the main problem with Family Guy as a whole. It does not want to understand any of the issues that it wants to talk about. It takes time, effort, and research. Something that Family Guy doesn't want to spend time on doing. Oh, and this is just a nitpick, but Joe's a fucking police officer. I'm sure that someone broke a law somewhere. Let's just get back to the other plot. The live-action picture of herpes will discuss me less. Yeah, Stewie and Chris hacked into Brian's Facebook.
Yeah, but Stewie, why are you being so vindictive?
I don't know, Brian. You pretend to be intelligent. Try to fucking think! Chris steals Brian's car, but Stewie isn't so easy to impress.
Oh, Brian, for the first time in my life, I realized I couldn't trust you. I couldn't trust my own best friend.
First time? The fuck?
I'm sorry, Stewie. You're right. I let you down.
Oh, that is really sad. I am so sorry that you missed Stewie's Little League game after you promised to be there. Now can we talk about the fact that you gave a baby herpes?
I guess I was just too embarrassed to admit I had herpes.
Because that makes it okay.
It was a rotten thing to do, and I promise I will never lie to you again.
Don't lie. That's the moral that they were going for here. The two morals of this episode are soldiers can do whatever the fuck they want and they'll be celebrated for it, and you shouldn't lie. It has become painfully obvious to me that bringing Brian Griffin back was a mistake in every sense of the word. This character is unsalvageable. Not only is there nothing likable about him, he's not even trying to defend what he was doing.
Well, you can't always expect my usual brand of stupidity. I like to mix it up. Keep you on your toes.
At least he knows that what the fuck he was doing is a bit out of the ordinary. Brian is giving Stewie herpes like he accidentally bumped into...
Yeah, that's the thing I agree with Mr. Etzer. It's like at least Patrick is aware of how dumb he is in SpongeBob. Brian could be a piece of shit and then still be like, wait, why am I a piece of shit? Like, it's like... And I think cartoon characters like that get fucking hated by everybody.
To him at a store or something. Maybe I could accept this on some bizarre level if Brian was supposed to be an idiot, like brain dead, like a zombie. But he's supposed to be an intellectual character. Okay, Stewie, you're a genius. I know you're a genius. Do you actually realize what just happened? He gave you an incurable disease, one that you'll never be over for the rest of your life. This is until the point where you die, where you do not exist anymore, where everything you've done in life no longer matters. Brian is not sorry that he did this, or at the very least, is more sorry that he lied to you when the lie was impossible to keep. You must be in some serious fucking denial. You two realize that bringing Brian back was a mistake and you just don't want to. And we end on a gross out gag. I'm done here. I am just so disgusted with this episode. Yeah, give Brian another chance at life. Let's see what the fuck he does with it. And I'm not done with what has happened to this character either. There are at least 2 more episodes where he's horrible.
Tasty juice, drink it, then convert it to pee.
No, but you can have some tasty juice. It has only 1/3 the sugar of soda.
Mmm, delicious. Thanks, Mom.
Tasty juice, drink it, then convert it to pee.
Mom, can I have some soda?
No, but you can
drink it, then convert it to
It has only
pee.
1/3 the sugar of soda.
Mmm, delicious. Thanks, Mom.
Tasty juice, drink it, then convert it to pee.
Tasty juice, drink it, then convert it to pee.
Oh, hey. You called me pigging out.
Hey there, it's me Amelia here, and welcome to my second commentary. And I'm going to attempt a somewhat controversial subject, the mysterious Mr. Enter. Now before you click back, yes, I know there are a lot of commentaries on this guy, or at least there used to be. And yes, I know that quite a few of his haters are
Oh, Spurg. Oh my god, calling people Spurg? I didn't know calling people Spurgs was a 2016 thing. What? I feel so old saying it now. Damn. Didn't even know that. I thought it was something that was new and fresh. It's an old thing? Didn't know that. I don't even want to say the word anymore. Is YouTube an S tier platform? Yes, YouTube is a S tier. Triple S tier. The S in Spurg.
this particular this guy, or at least there used to be. And yes, I know that quite a few of his haters.
Oh, neckbeard? Yeah. Oh, Sirius made a video on Mr. Enter? That's nuts.
Are really immature. However, this particular video needs to be
Ad hominems will forever be immature, okay? Like, you can't sound serious chucking ad hominems, okay? You just come across as a 12-year-old.
on. It's actually not one of his reviews, but it's about his own work, and it's very revealing. But anyway, enough chit-chat. Let's get started.
Going on.
Why is this girl's OC Hawk Girl? Like...
Is a project that's very dear to my heart.
Okay, so far so good. A lot of us have projects like that.
Currently, I have finished the first draft of the novel, which is about 65,000 words.
It might be nice to explain the project a bit more before you tell us the word count. Anyway, he rambles for a long time about his writing history, and I'm gonna skip that.
But what is growing around?
In my humble little opinion, a disaster. And yes, in case you're wondering, I have read the book in question.
It started as wanting to be a webtoon or a pilot, some kind of animated series.
I love how you don't mention that you initially thought you could actually sell it to a TV network. Why, it's almost like you didn't want to be accused of having delusions of grandeur.
But through a series of events, the team that I gathered decided that the work might be better suited to...
I think all artists, I think we all have delusions of grandeur. We all have it at like some extent. We all have delusions of grandeur. As everyone's an artist, we all have it at some extent, but not like, you know what I mean? Not, but you know what I mean? Not like a bad, you know what I, like, it's crazy that this girl is saying that Mr. Enter had delusions of grandeur. It's like, if Enter had delusions of grandeur, then everybody has delusion of grandeur. Then it's like, then we all have it at some certain extent. But does that, if we all have it, then is it a bad thing? It's sort of like, you know what I mean? It's like, there are people that are narcissists, but then they're not horrible people. They're not abusers. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that have certain traits. I think we all, like, you know what I mean? It's a complicated subject, especially when it comes to like we're all different types of people, you know what I mean? Everybody's different. I think we all, I don't think you should call it delusions of grandeur. I think we all like feel that we're important, like we have like a level of importance. I don't think it's delusions of grandeur. Like, I think a lot of artists have this. I think a lot of everybody in the world has this. I don't think it's delusions of grandeur, or if it is, I don't think it's bad delusions of grandeur. I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like,
now the voice actors are still going to do their part during an audio reading. One of our artists is still doing all the art for it, like the cover. But more specifically, the general premise of the series was that the stories took place in a world where kids were still kids and adults were still adults, but the roles were swapped. It was to be a world designed and controlled by kids.
I also love how you don't mention the fact that you stole the idea from a Disney short called Flip Flopped, which you even made an atrocity review of.
I don't think that this idea is particularly unique or anything
wow.
like that.
Oh, there's a fly. You guys saw the fly?
Stole it. Granted, Flip Flopped was a pretty bland short, but God, at least acknowledge where you got the idea from.
I'm sure that many people at least had this idea a few times growing up, but still the concept gives a lot of people pause.
That's because if you think about it for more than a few minutes, you realize that a world run by kids would quickly dissolve into chaos.
So,
yeah.
Let's go really in-depth about it. The first thing that you have to know about the world of growing around...
And just like what I said earlier, that's neither, just like delusions of grandeur, that's neither a good or a bad thing, okay? If the world's gone to chaos, okay? It depends on what type of chaos. It depends on what type of chaos it is, you know what I mean?
The world works. By that I mean...
But then again, this video came out in 2016, so take everything that this person and what I'm saying with a grain of salt.
dystopia or post.
Well, probably a large grain of salt, because this shit is. I'm just talking for the sake of talking at this point. You know what I mean?
The world functions within the story.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems with that. For one thing, the kids in your world are inexplicably skilled enough to have jobs despite having never gone to school. And for another thing, once they grow up, they lose their freedom to their offspring. Yeah, let me say that again. People lose their freedom once they grow up.
Pretty much wherever this idea is told, everything is terrible and dark and dystopic in the work. I think it's Lord of the Flies that largely influences how people think of this genre, and we have everything from Children of the Corn to The Tribe that builds upon this. In fiction, worlds ruled by children are a terrible place.
First off, an idea is not a genre. Second, fiction tends to portray worlds run by kids like this because kids are generally immature. And third, a world where you lose your freedom for no good reason as soon as you grow up,
That's debatable. An idea is not a genre. I disagree with that.
It's a terrible place, no matter how much you try to sugarcoat it.
Are cold and tough and dumb, even though fiction is about the fantastical and something couldn't possibly exist in reality.
Yes, but that's not.
Growing around can be cold.
Sorry, I had this right.
And tough at times, but at its default, it's not. One thing that makes all the difference, and I think needs to be understood, is that this is a series that is written for children. I don't mean that in a condescending, it's so stupid, haha, they won't notice Teen Titans Go kind of way.
No, you mean that in a I don't need to explain anything and I can throw away all logic kind of way.
I mean, this series was always designed to specifically appeal to the mind of a child. You could not tell this story in a book for adults, for instance.
Because most
I disagree with this person again. You can create, if you're making your own world, you can create the logic. The logic is so subjective, especially like how they design unless like this girl is like that type of person where like, oh, that's so weird how she's this girl's like avoid all logic. It's like, bro, if you're making a story or a world, you can create your, like, that world has its own logic, like shows how, like, unless like, I don't know, this is such a debatable thing though.
adults would quickly
I
notice
don't, why do you, because you're making a show and a world, you're making a fictional world that has to be like, has to have its own logic. It can't always just be realistic because it has to be something like out of this world. You're making fiction, so it can have its own fucking rules, okay? Like, why is there worlds where it's just anthropomorphic cats or whatever? Like, there's different types of worlds where it's just one race, one, like,
gigantic holes and unfortunate implications in your world.
At least, not without making it the horrific dystopias mentioned above.
So you admit that adults will point out that your world makes no sense?
So let's ask, what makes a good story aimed at children?
Not something where people be—
I like how this person's like, so you're admitting to adults that your world doesn't make sense. Again, what I just fucking said, like, if you're making a fictional world, you can create your own fucking rules and logic, like, legit, like, not everything has to be fucking realistic. It's literally fiction. It has to be over exaggerated from reality to separate it from reality.
Admit that adults will point out that your world makes no sense?
So let's ask, what makes a good story?
There's like so much fiction. There's so much fictional stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like Mr. Pickles doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't like.
That's something where people become
I think I disagree with this girl.
slaves to their kids as soon as they grow up. I can tell you that.
To answer that, you're going to need to think about what issues do kids generally go through.
I've actually spent a lot of time with kids through babysitting and substitute teaching, and I really don't think that your book is something that's going to really appeal to them. For one thing, the characters are really bland and stereotypical, They feel like they were written by someone whose idea of what kids are like came from watching Nickelodeon. Like, all kids want to eat nothing but sugar. All kids love getting dirty. But I'm getting off topic. Go on with the video.
I don't mean the straightforward issue.
Yeah, I this is where I agree with this girl. If you're making a show, or I mean not a show, if you're making a book and you want it to appeal to kids, then you're probably gonna have, like, you're probably gonna make memorable characters, you know what I mean, that kids like. That's probably like the first thing in mind. Like, you wouldn't make bland characters. I agree with this person. You don't make bland characters that, like, your target demographic is not gonna like, you know what I mean?
It's like school or chores or friendship. I'm talking about,
like, you don't make a two-dimensional character that's just blah and bland. You make like a character that's like human, that's like that stands out, you know what I mean? Like the characters that people make Rule 34s about, or you know what I mean, like just the most memorable characters. They have like a personality, just unique traits about them. Like, that's why they're so notable and just memorable characters.
All of those things relate.
So now you're a child psychologist?
And when you get down to it, I don't think that any child goes through their childhood without feeling powerless or underestimated. And many children's works meet those specific needs.
Can they do so without making adults in their stories slaves?
How many children's works have a monster where the adults can't do anything against it, either out of stupidity or think that it's just a childish game, or a lack of innocence, or even their own adult lives? Every book where the kids go to a magical school.
That's where I disagree with Enter. He's trying to go over the cliches of like every single kid's book when like that's not the case. I mean, like, all books are different, all stories are different. I don't think every book is like the same thing, you know what I mean? The same, like, I don't, it's so weird. This is where I agree with the girl. This is where I agree with the girl that made this video. It's like, that's where Mr. Enter has delusions of grandeur, where he thinks like, oh, this has never been done before. This has never been done before. I think that's where a lot of artists have delusions of grandeur, when it's like a lot of artists that think this way, they're like, or a lot of people that think this way, they're like, oh, no one has ever done this before, you know what I mean? Like, that's really like delusions of grandeur in a way. You know what I mean? Especially like if you think you can do it better, it's like, you know what I mean? Or if it's like, oh, everybody does, you know what I mean? Nobody has done it. Nobody has done this before, and this is gonna be great. And you know what I mean? It's like, that's some like delusions of grandeur shit. Like, that's where I agree with this girl.
In works where kids are able to outsmart villains much older than them, it answers the feelings of being underestimated. So basically, every work of children's literature needs to give kids a strong sense of agency. More often than not, that's what makes or breaks it.
Other things can make or break it too, such as actually telling a good story or having interesting characters, or, you know...
Okay, that's where I agree with this girl. Yep, having an interesting story, interesting characters, yep. And I think the thing that makes or breaks a lot of stories or shows for a lot of people is characters and story. Like, I think characters and story is like the thing that makes or break a lot of, like, you know what I mean, stories or like, or shows or anything, like, you know what I mean, where it's like worlds, like that shit. I should stop scratching. Oh my god, I'm bleeding again. God damn it. I hate fucking scratching. That sucks because my skin was fucking healing, okay? Like, there was no more blood. You guys, my skin was healing, and then I was just scratching right now, and now it's like a little bit bleeding. God damn it. Fuck. Hate this shit. Just like how it's showing Hawk Girl, in this video. Like, Hawk Girl is a part of the DC universe. The DC universe has like unique characters, you know what I mean? Flash is like really fast, but he's also like has like a personality. He's like the that, not asshole, but like cocky type, you know what I mean? Batman's like the dark and serious, like, and the story of Batman, just like the backstory of like his parents got murdered, you know what I mean? It's just like a lot of, it's not even DC, it's like other shit, you know what I mean, that have like unique characters. MLP, the storyline of MLP, it's like, you know what I mean, the elements of harmony and everything. The characters are fucking amazing. There's Pinkie Pie, she's like the hyperactive like party pony, you know what I mean, like that's what makes a show, that's what makes or breaks a show, is like if it has good characters and a good story or not, like
Making sense.
Going around attempts to meet both of those feelings. The feeling of powerlessness is an obvious one. Growing around meets that on its face. In the world of growing around, kids have the power over their families, their countries, and their communities.
While the adults have no rights. Joy.
But feeling of being underestimated is a more interesting one. And it's another one that the world of growing around is also supposed to meet